Hey everyone, James Niggemeyer here. Thank you for tuning back into my YouTube channel. It's the middle of March, and for a lot of the country that means that there's a lot of bass moving shallow to spawn. And when you have that, you have fish moving on the flats, moving into the backs of pockets in search of warm, protected water where they can do their annual spawning ritual. And there's so many different baits that are really effective at catching them this time of year. But one bait in particular that's great for while they move up, while they're on beds, and then as they move back out is a swim bait. And there's so many different varieties nowadays. There's people that are making them out of their garage, little startup companies making some really unique things. I've got a few different types here. I've got a hollow bodied type boot style swim bait, and this one's a Strike King Shadowlicious. And this one's been around for a while. These hollow bodied type baits have caught a bunch of fish. And then this is probably one of your more popular ones, a Strike King Rage Swimmer. It's a solid bodied bait, but it has like just a groove in the back or a hook slot in the back and a hook slot in the belly. So when you're Texas rigging it weedless, and that's what I'm going to talk about, is Texas rigging these swim baits weedless for fishing in shallow areas where these fish are going to move up to spawn. And some different hook styles, some different ideas. I'm just going to share some different nuggets with you guys about weedless swim baits, because that's where they're going to spawn. They're going to spawn around buckbrush, around weed beds, different things like that, where if you throw an open hook up there, you're probably going to get hung up. So weedless swim baits for spawning fish, pre-spawn fish, post-spawn fish, that spring spawn is just a tremendous way to not only get bit, but to also catch some of the biggest bass of the year. So that's what we're talking about. We're talking about rigging weedless swim baits, some different styles, some different ideas about what to reach for, the types of hooks, and things to consider when you're out there fishing. And with that, let's get into it. Number one, when I'm rigging a weedless swim bait, I want something specifically like this one's a solid body one. I want something that's going to be a wider gap so that when a bass bites down on it and he mashes down on that thing, that there's still enough wide body gap on there so that I can still hook and land the fish, that I can actually penetrate the fish's mouth with the swim bait. So number one, just rigging one of these things. These have a little corkscrew piece there at the top, and you just want to run that into the very center as much as possible, into the very center of the swim bait, right in there, and then just begin spinning that onto that corkscrew section. And you want to run it up a good distance, but not just all the way up there, because you want a little bit of play. See, I'm going to try to show you that there. You want a little bit of play so that this body can still swim, because that's a big part of the draw of swim baits, is the action. And they're just such tremendous fish producers in a lot of times in really clear water. And then I kind of line it up and get it figured out where my bait's going to go. I kind of got that a little bit crooked. You want to line that up and figure out where the hook's going to come out so that the bait remains straight throughout the whole process. Find that puncture spot, find that spot where you'd want to puncture the bait, come straight through, and boom, just like that. Now it looks like the hook's just buried in the plastic and you may not be able to hook a fish, but watch this, check this out. In the hook slot, bam, it's right there. It's ready to hook a fish, but still keep me weedless around brush, weeds, and any other dock pilings, dock posts, wherever you might find bass spawning, and even around rock. This one is an owner beast hook. It's a 6/0 with a 1/4 ounce belly weight. This one's great. This is a 5 3/4 inch Strike King Rage Swimmer. I feel like this matches this bait perfectly. And that's another thing. You want to find a hook that's maybe not too big where you're kind of oversizing the plastic, but not too small where if the fish bit down on the plastic, you didn't have enough bite or enough hook gap to really penetrate the fish's mouth. Because what's going to happen is the fish is going to bite down on that, you're going to set the hook, and then that hook is big time exposed, and that's what you want. For like this 5 3/4 inch Strike King Rage Swimmer, I like this 6/0 owner beast hook with the belly weight. I like that belly weight because that helps me, that gives me a little bit of a rudder and enables me, if I want to slow it down, I can still slow it down and keep my rod tip up and keep it over top of any kind of cover. But I can also, if I need to speed it up, if the water's super clear, it gives me the ability to speed this bait up and not have the bait roll over on its side. So that's probably my favorite one, the belly weighted owner beast hook with like a striking rage swimmer like that. But another option, if you've got a lot of weeds and you're fishing really shallow, let's say you're fishing a grass flat, is an unweighted one. It's generally the same thing, but you're basically, what you're trying to do is, if you're fishing kind of a deeper zone and you want that bait to fall down a little bit, the belly weight's what you reach for. If you're fishing in, say, a foot or two or less, then the unweighted one is kind of what you're going to want to go with. And then the other option that I think is a tremendous option, especially with a lot of drawing power for bigger swim baits, for bass, to draw those bass to your bait, is an owner flashy swimmer. And I believe that's their A-dot version, and it's got a 3/8 ounce belly weight here, and then obviously your little spinner right here. And the spinner is what just adds a little bit more drawing power, a little bit more flash. And when I reach for these is, okay, I'm going to go ahead and rig up this Shadowlicious on here. Again, you want to get that thing started just straight on the nose. Straight on the nose, and just instead of going just dead center up here, I'm going to go just a little bit down here, kind of what I would kind of consider the lower lip, and then get that started, run it up on there, make sure you get that guy going, and then obviously remember you're going to leave a little bit of room, and then I'm kind of gauging where I would have that, where that hook would come through. And then boom, you're just lining it up. These are a little more difficult because obviously you have a hollowed center in these guys. So you want to make sure you get the thing started. And then I'm kind of, again, gauging it while it's inside the belly. And then I can see, because they're kind of clear, you can kind of see where it should come out. Back it up, pop through, and then you can just run it like that, but you can also just skin hook the tip, and that'll help it kind of ride where it needs to. And here's where I feel like the flashy swimmer is good. A lot of times in real clear water, just the swim bait by itself, a lot of pulling power for bass to see the bait from a distance, come to it. But when I have overcast skies, wind, and different things like that, a little bit of a flash of a blade will help fish it'll draw fish's attention to the bait, and then they'll see it from a distance, come and get it. The water's a little dirtier, you have overcast skies, maybe a little bit of rain or wind. I'm going to probably reach for a flashy swimmer, a little bladed flashy swimmer like that as a harness for my swim bait. Let me back that up and get that lined up. And then I'm ready to go. And it also adds a little bit extra weight. You can fish this guy almost like a spinnerbait, but it's got that realistic shad body, minnow type profile, and then obviously it's a bigger bait. But you will catch 2-pounders on this. It looks a little bit more intimidating. This is, I believe, 5.5 inch Shadowlicious. Sometimes I'll even fish a 6.5 inch. So that's a tremendous fish producer. So just to kind of go back over what I'm talking about, really shallow water, just an unweighted owner beast hook, big swim bait, wide gap, help you hook and land more fish with these bulkier plastic swim baits. And then when I want that bait to kind of drop down a little bit more, or I want to work it faster without having that bait roll on its side, the keel on that weight works excellent for these bigger full-bodied swim baits like this. And then naturally the same thing with the owner beast flashy swimmer, but you have the blade in there. There's times when they just want that little bit extra flash to get the bait noticed from a longer distance. Bass come and see it, and they swallow the entire thing. They come either at the head, sometimes right from behind or from the side, but the swim bait. Swim bait's a tremendous fish producer in the spring. Will catch you some really big fish, The beauty is, again, I can throw this guy where it would be harder to throw a crankbait, or maybe even a spinnerbait might get hung up a little bit more. These are going to be a little bit more forgiving when in that shallower water, in that cover, that those bass are going to want to spawn around. So that's some rigging tips, some ideas as far as, remember, when you're trying to deal with depths, a little bit more weight, speed, a little bit more weight, less visibility, you're going to go with a flashy swimmer. So those are some ideas. Take that into consideration next time you're out there this spring chasing those big old bass out there around the spawning flats and different things like that. And again, swim bait's awesome pre-spawn as they move up during that warmer water, and then as they move into the spawning beds, a lot of times you can still catch them in and around their beds, protecting their beds, buzzing it over their heads, and coming in from one side, they'll just pop that thing. Then as they move out and into the shad spawn, again, the swim bait is another awesome producer. And obviously they don't necessarily have to be just for big baits, but you can use these same ideas for smaller baits, whether it's a 3 3/4 inch rage swimmer or whatever it is. Just take that into consideration. You maybe where you live, you're throwing an 8-inch. A lot of guys are throwing those bigger swim baits out on Lake Fork. That's it for now, guys. Just wanted to share a quick tip for rigging weedless swim baits for springtime bass. Thank you for tuning into my YouTube channel. If you haven't already subscribed, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. That's really the best way for YouTube to see that these videos are something useful for anglers out there, and then it'll help kind of position it so other people can find it. Thanks for watching, and until next time, good fishing.